powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. Tonight, another story of a Montanan caught in Sunday night's gunfire in Las Vegas.
A Bozeman woman was able to survive the attack, luckily, when the gunman opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, killing 58 people and injuring hundreds of others.
Jolene Barkas escaped the massacre uninjured with a little help from outside the concert venue.
MTN's Morgan Davies tonight brings us her story.
I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm home and I'm happy I'm with my family, because a lot of people don't get to say that.
Jolene Barkas is no stranger to Las Vegas. She lived there at one point and she's even been to the music festival before.
My friend Rose and I go, it's our annual girls trip.
This year they went a day early and decided to stay at Mandalay Bay.
We were actually in the same tower. Mandalay Bay is kind of a Y shape. We were in that same tower, but we were on the west side from where the shooter was.
On Sunday, Jolene and Rose went to the concert venue just like any of the other days.
Jason Aldean started, and he'd come out and he played one song, and then he's like, this is how this is gonna work. He's like, I don't talk much. He's like, you guys are here to see me perform and you're here to see me play, so we're gonna have a good time and we're just gonna rock this place. And then he started in, I think it was about the third or fourth song, I can't remember. So he's playing, and then you just hear this pop, 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 pop. And at first I was like, it's fireworks. So I looked, and we were on the edge of the bleachers closest to where the stage was. So I turned this way to kind of look, and as I was getting back around, I started to see people running, and the band's still playing. And as soon as I saw those people starting to run, coming from that west side where we always sat, I was like, something's going on. And Rose was like, what? And then it started again. And at that point, I knew.
Jolene and Rose ran for their lives, getting separated, as they didn't know if it was an active shooter in the crowd, if there were multiple shooters. And when the chaos took over, Jolene's husband, who was a highway patrol officer, helped make sure she knew what to do to stay safe.
Like, you have to slow down, you have to, just breathe. And he's like, where's your phone at? And I was like, it's at 44%. And he's like, turn off your Wi-Fi, turn off your Bluetooth. He goes, stay off your phone, just text me if you need to. So I just laid there in the back of this truck.
Hours had gone by of Jolene hiding and moving to different locations, not knowing anything, before she found out that a bus was going to take her back to the hotel. And at about 7:30 in the morning, Jolene was allowed back into her hotel room, and then reunited with her friend Rose.
Get back to the room until 10, and as soon as she walked in, I just gave her a giant hug. I told her, like, I'm so sorry I lost you in there. She's like, it's okay. Oh, I was so happy we're both alive.
Jolene knows now that it's going to take some time to recover from this horrific night.
We went to the mall at lunch, and I didn't, during Saturday morning too, or Monday morning, I'd be texting my husband. I was like, I can't stop crying. And he's like, you're coming down from your adrenaline. He's like, this is normal. And I was like, okay. So all day I'd be like, now this is happening. He's like, this is normal. This is you coming out of it. Like, going to the mall, like, I was hypersensitive. Like, when I came in, because I was like, I just want to get back to my normal schedule. Like, I just want to go to work and get through the day. Like, I got in here and I was shaking and I was nauseous, and I was like, I don't know if I can make it all day.
As she's glad to be home and safe with her family, Jolene still finds herself thinking about the victims.
I'd like to go back to the site. Like, I'd like to be able to walk up to the site and put down the candle and just, sit there.
Thanks, Morgan Davies with MTN News.
Well, it turns out a former colleague of ours here at Q2 lost two of his friends in the Las Vegas shooting.
Former Weekend Sports anchor Ryan Cheverini, who now hosts a daytime talk show in Chicago, woke Monday morning to learn his longtime friend Hannah, a mother of three, was killed, as well as his former brother-in-law who served in Afghanistan. Cheverini
spoke with CNN's Don Lemon last night about their lives and what he calls a change that needs to be made.
He was involved in some pretty bad firefights in Afghanistan, and he dealt with his PTSD when he got back here, and he was finally really excelling in his career and got promoted in his company, and we were really proud of him to see him come out of that. But he was proud that he served our country. He was proud that he protected Americans, and he signed up for those firefights, and he knew about that. He signed up to face those military weapons when he was in a war zone. Nobody signs up for that as a civilian. And, you know, as much as we're grieving right now as family and as friends, you know, there's a part of me that's also incredibly angry right now. We just keep seeing this over and over again.
Ryan worked as a sportscaster for several years in the early 2000s. He is now a co-host of Windy City Live in Chicago.
In other news tonight, in north central Montana, officials with the Chippewa Cree tribe are helping residents dig out after more than 2 feet of snow fell on the Rocky Boy Reservation.
And now we're learning the Montana Highway Department was able to bring in some additional equipment today to begin to clear the roads. Look at all the snow. Now, the top priority is getting to those with medical needs so they are able to get to their doctor appointments and to make sure they also have access to their medications.
Northwestern Energy spokesman Butch Larkham tells us as many as 1,250 residents in Harlem, Fort Belknap, and Malta areas are still without power tonight.
Larkham says some of the rural residents in that area could be without power through this weekend, depending on their location. He also says Northwestern lost 350 power poles in the storm, poles that snapped due to the weight of the wet snow. So speaking of the weather, along with all the snow, Bob, temperatures were down drastically there overnight.
It's stuff that we haven't seen in a while, and we're not ready for it. But let me show you how cold it got last night with no electricity. This was terrible. Look at that Havre, 6 degrees for the overnight low. It was 11 at Cutbank. Elsewhere around much of that area, temps are only into the 20s. Here in Billings, we were one of the warm spots at 29 degrees for our overnight low. Livingston was 19. But now let me show you how we're doing now. We're a little bit better, mostly into the 50s here in the Billings area. But up at Havre, they've only warmed up to 28 degrees. They're still below freezing, and a lot of 40s around that city as well. So things are beginning to warm up a little bit, but all that snow on the ground is going to make it slower to warm up because a lot of that sun that heats that the ground area is being reflected back into space because snow is a really good reflector of sunlight and solar energy. Our forecast is talking about a warmer weekend. We'll chat about that in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks, Bob. A man was beaten, dismembered, and decapitated at a Billings apartment in 2015, and now the second of 2 suspects admits his involvement in that murder. 36-year-old Patrick Stansoverbull pleaded guilty Monday in Yellowstone County Justice Court to felony tampering with evidence and misdemeanor assault. His relative, Carrie Stansoverbull, pleaded guilty in July to negligent homicide for the murder of her 41-year-old boyfriend, Jeffrey Hewitt. Now, witnesses told investigators Hewitt was badly beaten by the 2 suspects and several others at the Ponderosa Apartments. That's where the victim died days after the assault. Hewitt's body was then dismembered and decapitated. Patrick Stansoverbull admits he helped destroy the body and throw the remains in a burn pile in Pryor. The victim's head has never been found. Prosecutors tell us they will recommend the longest sentence possible for Patrick Stansoverbull. For Carrie Stansoverbull, prosecutors will recommend 40 years in prison.
Burglars struck a Warden and a Ballantine bar this past weekend. Miller's Dark Horse Saloon and the Finish Line Bar, both burglarized on back-to-back nights, with the robbers taking cash and liquor. In the first break-in at the Dark Horse Saloon early Saturday, the robbers took cash and a bottle of tequila rosé. The following night, the burglars struck again at the Finish Line, stealing money and again the same type of tequila. The Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office is investigating. And another robbery overnight here in Billings when a pizza delivery driver was robbed at gunpoint. That robbery happening just after 11 last night on Prince of Wales Drive. The suspects took $30 in cash and 2 pizzas. The male suspects, described as average height, thin, both were wearing black bandanas over their faces.
In Helena today, people concerned about potential budget cuts voiced their displeasure.
Among them, family members who fear that services for the mentally ill and developmentally disabled will be curtailed. MTN's Lindsay Ford reports.
A lot of my friends and community members rely on these services that are being cut, so it's definitely personal for me.
On the second floor of the Capitol steps, like-minded people rallied together, holding signs saying, "If you care, be fair, raise revenue," and "Do your job, Montana legislator, so we can do ours." Sarah Howell, executive director for Montana Women Vote, said this rally touches her personally.
Wanted to have this rally so that people's voices were part of this process, part of the budget decision-making process, come and share their personal stories, stand in line to testify at the committee. That's exactly what we think should be happening.
Wife and mother of 3, Justine Kugel, says her daughter Quinn has Treacher's Collins syndrome and the Kugel family uses state medical services to help provide for Quinn.
It's very, very heartwarming and good to know that there are other people like us out there.
Glenn Port is also concerned about potential cuts.
I wouldn't be alive right now if I didn't have my benefits and proper funding and whatnot.
Like Justine Kugel, Glenn Port shared his story with lawmakers.
Just work with us as best as possible and realize that the most fragile of us can't even be here today. Cut us some slack. Don't cut the budget.
In Helena, Lindsay Ford, MTN News.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Well, still ahead on tonight's 5:30 news, one eastern Montana ranch is sowing a bright path for the future of agriculture in our state.
And later in sports, is this senior high cross country runner the female to beat later this month at state? Scott shows us why the answer may be yes.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire and sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news.